Hello everybody! It's time for another episode of Cooking with Grandma. Aren't you excited? Well, here it is, November. Well, almost November. It's the very end of October. And we start getting where we want to stay in, we want to cook more, we want to make something that's nutritious, but also that's going to be warm and filling. Made chili the other night, first time this season. So now I'm going to cook a roast, and this is kind of a special deal because roast is so expensive, and this is a Thursday, and so we don't normally have an expensive cut of meat like a chuck roast on a Thursday. But it just so happened that Publix was running the boneless chuck roast, buy one get one free yesterday. And so what I have started for you here is a 3-pound boneless chuck roast. And this 3-pound chuck roast was normally $19 for 3 pounds of meat. But it was buy one get one free. So basically I got it for half that. So I'm going to show you how you prepare just a basic roast, and we're going to add some potatoes and carrots and onion to it. And this is one of Grandpa's favorite things to eat. So let's start by talking about the meat. So a chuck roast is a very tender cut of roast, and this by tonight this will just have fallen apart and it will be super delicious. And so that's a really wonderful thing. Men love meat. So if you're a single woman out there, here's a tip for you. Don't go to lunch at some frou-frou place or like Panera or something, because the men will be at places that serve lots of meat. So like a subs place, like Firehouse Subs or someplace like that. You'll go in there and it'll be full of men. Just a clue for you there. But men love meat. And so my husband will want to eat this whole thing himself, 3 pounds of meat himself. But I will have to tell him that this is normally a very expensive cut of meat, and he can't eat the whole thing himself. So I'm intending for this to be 2 meals. Now, a serving of meat is supposed to be the size of your palm. So for me, it would be about this big. If you're a man, you would get a little bigger portion. But the size of your palm is not much. So probably about 4 or 5 ounces of meat is a serving, and is really what you're supposed to have. And this is, like I said, 3 pounds. So and I'm hoping that it will do us for 2 meals. So what I did to start, you want to put a nice brown on your meat. And so since my meat, I just brought it from the store yesterday, it had not been frozen. So I just put a little canola oil in the skillet, and I browned or seared the roast in a hot skillet, maybe a medium-high heat. Now what you want to happen is you're kind of sealing in those juices on the meat and with that sear. And then also, and I don't know if you can really see it on the video or not, but if you see all this brown crusty material here left in the skillet, that's what you want, because it is that makes your gravy or your juices brown and flavorful. And so that's ideal, is to have a little bit of sear there, a little char in the skillet. And so I will probably get a scraper and scrape that out of there so that, you know, all of that goodness is in the roast, okay? So that's your first step, is to sear off the meat, make it nice and juicy. So what I did next, since I'm using my Instant Pot for this, and it does a lot of different things. If you've watched my other video, the one about making cube steaks, I actually did the sear in the Instant Pot with the saute setting. However, this is a big piece of meat, and so it doesn't quite fit down in the bottom of the pot. And so that's why I used a skillet. Now also, what I did, I went ahead and pressured it just for 15 minutes. Just to get it a head start. It is about 11 o'clock in the morning, so it'll have plenty of time to cook this afternoon. But just to make sure that it's nice and tender, I went ahead and did a pressure before I put the vegetables in. And I just used the meat setting on the Instant Pot, and I think it's 15 minutes on low. And so it's already done that. I did put a cup of water in there as well, because you have to have at least a cup of water in order to do your pressure. And if you can see, again, it's kind of hard to tip this over without spilling it, but you may be able to see that the juice that's in there is a little amber color, and that's because of the sear that I put on the meat, and so that makes it just ideal. Okay, so for the meat, I did put a little salt and a little pepper in there before I pressure cooked it. And so now we're going to add our vegetables. Now I like to do just kind of a traditional pot roast thing, and I use potatoes, carrots, and also I throw in some onion for flavor. And we particularly like onions that have been cooked in the roast, and it not only adds flavor, they're yummy. So, so what I'm using is a russet potato. These are Publix brand, and they call them baking potatoes, but it's a russet. You could use different kinds, but a russet is what I use for mashed potatoes, and it's just a good basic eating potato. It cooks up nicely, but keeps its shape, and so it's good for something like this where you're cooking it in a lot of juice. So I have taken the potatoes, and I have just peeled them, rinsed them, and quartered them. So they're in pretty big chunks because they're going to cook all the rest of the day, and they're going to be nice and tender by tonight. So we're going to add those in to the pot. Now, how many potatoes to use? So your sort of basic rule of thumb with potatoes is that you use one potato per person, and then you add an extra potato to the pot. So if you're making mashed potatoes for 8 people, you would use 8 potatoes and then an extra one. Now I have found that everybody loves potatoes, and so they're getting more than their typical serving. My grandchildren love mashed potatoes, and so it makes us sound like my husband eats a lot of meat, and my grandkids eat a lot of mashed potatoes, but we're Americans. That's just the way we are. And so I've put, I think, 6 or 7 potatoes in here, and they're quartered. And so that's, and they need salt and pepper as well. And so you just kind of eyeball it, what you think might work for it. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to add is a sweet onion. And I've also quartered this. Now, sweet onions are also called Vidalias, and you can find them in the supermarket. I particularly like sweet onions. You could easily use a Spanish onion or a yellow onion. They are sometimes cheaper, but I particularly like sweet onions. And so we're going to add those to the pot. They don't need any seasoning. So let's talk about carrots. Another universally enjoyed vegetable. I hate these little carrots in the package. I'm just going to be honest. And you're going to say, well, Wanda, why do you have them? Well, they were on sale. I think they were buy one, get one for free or whatever, and so I bought a couple of bags. Now, what's funny to me is they say, you notice they say baby cuts, not baby carrots, because they're not baby carrots. They may look like a baby carrot, but they look like a baby carrot because they've been manufactured with a machine to look this way. This is an adult carrot that's been whittled down to look like a baby carrot. And so in that whole process, they lose a lot of their flavor. They're not as juicy or sweet, and they're kind of dried out. And if you don't use them, they kind of just, they really don't have a lot of flavor. They are convenient. And if you have small kids and they will eat a carrot, then, you know, by all means, there you go. But normally, for making a roast, I would not use these little things. I would use regular carrots in the bag. I would peel them and cut them into big chunks and add them. But we're going the easy way, and we're just going to use these baby cut carrots and add them to the pot. Now, something else that I do, I like to add just a little extra flavoring. So I'm putting in just a little envelope of dry beef bouillon. You could also use a can of beef broth, or if you have one of those cartons of beef stock or beef broth, that would be perfectly fine. It's the same idea. So I'm going to add this. This is a pretty handy thing to keep in your pantry because obviously it doesn't take up a lot of space, and you can just keep it in your cabinet, and then you've got it. And you can reconstitute it if you want to by adding it to water, and you know, you can make beef bouillon, and you could actually drink it, or you know, whatever if you wanted to. But I just keep it on hand, and if I'm making something that I feel like needs a little extra beef flavor, then I will add a packet. You could use this to make beef gravy. You could add this to chili. You could add it. I almost always add some to soup if I'm making like a vegetable soup with ground beef in it. I'll almost always add some of this, just to add a little extra flavor. So there's just a little tip for you. Dry beef bouillon. So there we go. We have it all in the pot. What I will do now is I'll get some extra water and add it to it. We're almost to the top of the pot here. And so I'll probably add just enough water that I can start seeing it in my vegetables. And then I will put this on a slow cooker and just let it cook the rest of the day. So it'll probably cook about 6 hours until we have dinner tonight. And like I said, hopefully this will be enough for 2 meals. And because I'm an insurance agent and it's Medicare open enrollment, and so I'm really quite busy, so it will be good to have a dinner tonight, but then also have dinner for tomorrow night, that all we have to do is get it out of the fridge and warm it up. And leftover roast and potatoes and carrots are just so delicious. And you know, if you don't get enough vegetables in, like carrots and and potatoes and all that, and then you just have some meat left. Roast beef like this makes a great sandwich, or if you have some leftover rolls or something, just put it on a sandwich. I love just some roast beef like this on bread with mayonnaise, and I just love that. I think that's just delicious. My husband, not so much with the mayonnaise, but there you go. There is a boneless chuck roast with potatoes, carrots, and onions. And so I hope you try this and enjoy it. Please be sure to leave me a comment below, and I'll try to answer you. And give me some suggestions on some things that you would like to see me cook next. So things that, you know, are pretty common kind of things. I don't do much fancy cooking. It's mostly just things that I've grown up on. So give me some suggestions below, and I'll be happy to try those for some upcoming episodes of Cooking with Grandma. Bye for now.